Okay, so back here again. I'm sorry for that pause. So understand this. So what is it that we talked about, friends? What is it that we talked about? We talked about the request response model. We talked about the fact that there is always a server in case of a web-based application. We talked about the fact that you will have clients, like you may have a mobile application, you may have an HTML. I mean, you may have a laptop or a desktop, right, on which you have a browser. So whether whatever the devices, I mean, these are all devices. You have browsers, and from the browser you send request to the server. The request can be anything. It can be like, for example, pwc.com/home or about, and then this is the request which we got while searching for the, for the job. And then the request goes to the server, and on the server, you will process the request. You will have parameters, like, for example, here you've got this parameter, and here you've got another parameter, and those parameters are processed server side, and accordingly, the response is generated. So this entire model is a request response model. This is what we were talking about. And then we just talked about that there can be forms on HTML, right? I mean, on the browser in HTML, there can be HTML forms, and then you fill up those forms, and then the moment you click on create account, you can send a request in such a way. I repeat, you can send a request in such a way that the data can go in parameters as well as. So this is the data that is going in parameters. You can see this. This is the data that goes in parameters, all the data that is there in the URL, and you have got the parameter, the value of the parameter, then again the parameter and the value of the parameter. There can be multiple parameters separated by ampersand. So when you send data in parameters, fine, those are parameters. But then the data that can go in the body of the request, you can, like for example, in case of forms. In case of forms, ideally, though it is not that you cannot send the data of the form in parameters, but ideally the data of the form is sent in the body of the request. So far, so good, right? You're clear in this point? I've just reiterated all that we discussed, right? Clear? Very good, very good. Now, the third thing, there is yet another third aspect of request. You can send data in that as well. Very good. I click right mouse button and I say inspect element. Okay, and then I go to the network out here. I once again refresh, and when I refresh, you see this. Okay, once again I'll say refresh, and you see this here, login. You can see this is the request that has gone to the server. As a result of this request, the response came back, and the response was of what? So I'll once again clear this. I'll say create account. When I say create account, I'm here. Okay, okay, just simply switched. So wait a minute, I'll say refresh once again. So you see, this is the request that was sent to the server. This was the request, right? When I click on create account, it just simply changes the view. It does not send another request. So when I click on login, you see this is the request that was sent. ये दिख रहे हो आप? This is the URL. This is the URL. This is the request that is sent. Got it? And then the response comes back. When I click on preview, it may be able to give you the preview. Good enough. If not, no problem. In the response, you will get the entire HTML that came as a response. I repeat, in the response, you will get the entire HTML that you have received in the response, right? And very importantly, in the headers, the very first tab itself, you just not only get the URL, you get the status code. You see what is the method get. It can be get or it can be post as well. I repeat, it can be get or it can be post as well. Like for example, if I say create account, I clear this. I put something, and then I'll say t, and then now I say yes, and then I click on create account. Of course, it will end up, so okay, let me try now. Okay, the request is gone. You see this? It has failed, whatever the case is, but the request has gone to the server. Yes, this time the request was post. This is the reason I went through this form. The request is post. What does this mean? Because the data that was sent in the request was sent, this data of the form that was sent in what? The body of the request. Repeat. The data was sent in what? Come on. The data was sent in what? The body of the request. So the request has got parameters, the request has got body. Super. I'm sure without any doubts, I can assume that you all have understood the fact that request has got parameters and request has got body. Right? There can be parameters in the request, there can be body in the body of the request. There may or may not be the body of the request. There may not be parameters in the request in just the body. There can be both, right? But the request will either be get or a post. The request will either be get or a post. In case of a get request, you can send only parameters. You cannot send the body. Sun lo. Listen. In get request, you can send only the parameters, not the body. But in case of post, you can send the parameters as well as the body of the request. Got that? You can also send the body of the request. Yes. Yes. That's how it is typically. Okay. And then the status code. What is the status code? The response code is 200. That means everything is okay. If it is not 200, if it is 401, authorization error. If it is 404, page not found. There are different statuses. If you just simply go to, a response statuses, response statuses, right? You'll get all of those status response here. You know what it means by each one of those, status response. आपको सब मिलेगा इधर. Right, 207 क्या है, 206 401 क्या है, देखो थ्री मल्टीपल चॉइस मोर परमानेंटली 30 blah 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 सब मिलेगा आपको. Right, 200 is what, 404 is not found, 200 is success, 200 is success. Okay, remote address is like, the address of my machine and stuff and all, dynamically whatever the address is. Very important. I'll come back to this in a I'll come back to this, I'll come to this later. एक और चीज है रिक्वेस्ट का, देखो इधर, एक और चीज है रिक्वेस्ट का. What is that? Request, come on, request what, come on, request what, type करो, request what. No, you're right, but request what, ये क्या है? See, I have highlighted. Yes, the headers of the request. Yes, the headers of the request. हाँ हेलो सर, वालेकुम सलाम. भेज रहे ना चाय प्लीज? हाँ बस निकल गए. अरे वाह, ग्रेट, थैंक यू. Sorry. Okay, so you have got three things now. बोलो क्या है वो three things? In the request, the request has got parameters. Request can have body, and request not can, will certainly have headers. Yes. Headers, parameters, and body. Headers. Very important stuff, headers. अब ये headers में क्या जाता है? इसमें भी data जाता है. तीनों में data जाता है. I mean, in all the three you send data. Right, in all the three. But in this headers, the kind of data that goes is quite automatic from the browser many a times. Though you can programmatically also send data in headers, not my words. You can programmatically send data in headers. I repeat, you can programmatically send data in headers. You can do that. You can very well do that. Right? You can very well do that. But many of the headers goes from the client itself. What is the client? The browser. The Chrome is the client here. So you see this except is, what is the kind of data that is gone in the request. Okay, it's an application slash JSON kind of data. What is the encoding used? What is the language? What are the languages supported and used? And connection, keep time alive, and content length. Kitna data gaya tha? How much of data was sent? Content type. What was the type of the content and stuff? And then cookies. Right? What is a cookie? I'll come to cookies later. Okay, then host, where the data has been sent, and then origin, from where the data has been, where the from from where the page was loaded, and then you sent a request, and then referrer again, and then all of this information is there. And you can see this here. You can very well send additional information in the header, as I said, programmatically, that you can very well do. And you can see this session secure token. This is the session token that they are sending, that is your specific to your application. And then user agent, which browser is used, all right? What is the class of that browser and stuff and all? And then X workday client. Now this is again specific to your application. You may not find the similar kind of header in the other requests from other websites. This is the query parameter string. You see this query parameter string. So this is the, see, redirect is the parameter, and this is the value of it. I repeat, redirect is the parameter and this is the value of it. And then form data. जरा देखो ये form data. अब बोलो ये क्या है? ये form data क्या है? What is that? See this. Can you see this? I'm unable to scroll it. Okay, I'm unable to scroll it further, but you can see. I hope I'm very sure. What is the form data? Please see. You remember username Shakir MSLC, and then password 1234, and then success redirect URL and blah blah blah. This is the form data. This is the form data. Yeah, this is the data that I entered in the form. So this goes in the body of the request. This form data goes in the body of the request. This is the entire chatta kitta of the request. I mean, chatta kitta means what? I mean, anatomy, anatomy of the entire request. This is the anatomy of the entire request, right? And then of course, yes, this of course, yes, this browser also shows you when the response comes back. So what are the headers of the response? So when it comes back, these are the headers of the response as well. All right, that's what client system is. Yes, correct. That's how it is. That's how it is. And this is the entire. So this is the response that has come back. This is the response. It says that these are the errors that are encountered, and this is the response that they have taken, and they have put that response. This is dynamic behavior. They have used a jQuery or JavaScript kind of framework in order to just plug in that the request out here. Okay, that's how it is. And you see, this was an XHR request. What is an XHR request? XHR request was XML HTTP request. It was an AJAX request. This registration was an AJAX request. I repeat, it was an AJAX request in which this response came back. This was the response that came back. That was the error message, and that error message is shown here. Simple, simple. इससे ज़्यादा simple क्या होगा? What would be much simpler than this? So I hope you're getting the point, and I hope you have understood the concept of request response model at its base. Come on. Yes or no? Understood the request response part? Simple enough? Good. Now see what I'm going to do. We have our programs Java here. Okay. And I create a package, and I give the name of the package as my HTTP. Okay. My HTTP. And I create a class. I give the name of the class as my HTTP server. Right? I'm going to write my own HTTP server. I'm going to write my main function, and in the main function I'm going to write server socket. बनाऊंगा मैं मेरा खुद का server socket ss is equal to, don't worry, I'm not teaching you how to write network based applications in Java, but I am teaching you something else. And I'll say new server socket, and I want to open the socket on 8080, suppose. Okay. शाकिर आराम से लिखो. Okay, yeah, okay, server socket, correct. I'll now write this out, and I'll say starting the server, and I'll say ss.accept, and I'll say I'll get a socket out here. S is equal to ss.accept. Okay, I import that, and then I write s dot. Okay, so I'll take an input stream. I'll say input stream in is equal to s dot input stream, get input stream, and then I'll write n dot read. I will read it into a byte array. So I'll say a byte array. I'll say buffer is equal to new byte array. I'll say of say 1024. Okay, and I'll say read into the buffer. So I've got a byte array. Now I will convert that into string. I'll write request data is equal to, I'll say, or I'll just simply say that, okay, so request data. I'll say new string. This is how you convert bytes to string. And I'll say buffer, right? And I'll just simply say system.out.println, and I'll say request data. Few lines of code. I have my own server written. Okay, now see this. I will start my server. And the moment I start my server, you can see this. It says starting the server, my JVM is running. Why? Because ss.accept is waiting for an incoming connection. ss.accept is waiting for an incoming connection. Now see the circus that I'm going to do over here. Okay, and I'm going to write in resources. I'll say HTML. I want to create an HTML file. I'll write index.html file, and I'll just simply write here form. I'll say action is equal to I will write http colon localhost. What do you mean by localhost? Localhost means my own machine. Colon 8080. I'll say method is equal to get, which even if I do not give, it will be get. right? It will anyways be get even if I do not give the value. I'll say form, I'll say input, and I'll say type is equal to text. Okay, I'll take some value input. I'll say type is equal to submit. Okay, this is what I'm doing. हाँ थोड़ा उसको बंद ही रखा, मुझे 5 मिनट लगेंगे और फिर मैं पी पाऊंगा हाँ चाय. ओके ये हो गया. राइट सिंपल स्टफ, सिंपल स्टफ. ओके I save this. I take this index.html and I will copy this onto my desktop. Okay, I've got index.html. I will double click on it. It opens up here. You can see this one text box and submit button. Okay, I write here Shakir and I will click on submit. Okay, and when I click on submit, see the source of this page. See the source of this page. Don't you think this is the HTML that I have written? You remember input type is equal to text and input type is equal to submit. Yes or no? Correct. And I'm going to click on submit here now. Now, the moment I click on submit out here, okay, it did not work. The reason is, I mean, what I wanted, it did not go by that because I'll say name is equal to, I'll write the name. The name is the name of the parameter. Once again, I'll take this. Once again, I go to my finder. And then once again, I'm going to paste it here. No. Okay, once again I double click on it. This time when I say Shakir and when I say submit, take a look. It says the name is equal to Shakir question mark, the name is equal to Shakir. And take a look over here. HTTP colon double slash localhost 8080. Action is equal to form input type is equal to submit. It should have gone here. Okay. Did not receive the request. Ah, sorry, here you are. So you can see this here. I did have that, so I did not close it. So that is the reason perhaps. So I'll say in dot close. I'll close it. अच्छा आपने निकाल दिया चाय. What's the time? It's 10:45. Can you take an early tea break? 10 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So let's continue on the scene. Right. So I have written this small piece of code as uh, before the tea break, we were discussing this. I've just taken this, help of server socket. This is a component provided in Java.net library. As you can see, Java.net library. You can see this here. Yeah. Hi, Abhijit. Yeah. Tell me. Yeah. You want to say something, Abhijit? Oh, you're just saying hi. Okay. Are you? No, no, I didn't ask for you. Okay, you just said hi, sir, so I thought you wanted to say something. It's okay. Come on, let's continue. So you see server socket is what we have, and then I have opened the port 8080. That means my server socket is running here. This ss.accept will wait for the incoming connection. The moment an incoming connection comes in, I use an input stream in order to read the data that is coming over the socket connection, not my words, over the socket connection. And then I have written byte buffer over here. I've just created a data structure in which I can read the data that has come over the socket. Right on the socket connection, whatever the data that I have received in my program, the data that I have received, I am taking it into a byte buffer and then converting that byte buffer into a string, and then I'm closing the string and I'm displaying that over here. As simple as this. And you remember, I wrote a simple HTML stuff with just two things. One is the input type is equal to text, and the other is input type is equal to submit. I will click right mouse button, open with. I will open it with Google Chrome. So you see this is open. Here I'm going to say name is equal to, I say Shakir, and then I say submit. You see the name is equal to Shakir, the request goes to 8080, and on 8080 I have my server running, and you see this here. Okay, sorry, I had not started my server, it seems. So I will start my server. Okay, so it says starting the server. It has started the server actually. I shouldn't be saying starting the server. The server has already started. When I say ss.accept, so I'll say started the server. Okay, started the server. Once again, I'm going to run this server. Right, it says started the server. I will once again click right mouse button, open with, I'll say Google Chrome. Yeah, okay. You see this? The previous request that was actually in transition has received. In short, you see my server has received the request. Can you see what is the type of the request? What is the type of the request, friends? Get is the type of the request, isn't it? Get is the type of the request. Correct. And the name is equal to Shakir. Here it is the parameter. You see this? The value is here. And host is equal to whatever the host is. All of these are what? These are the headers. These are the headers. Right, so this is how a request looks like. So what am I supposed to do in this program now? Come on, I hope you all are all there with me and you can see my program accepting the request has come from the browser and it is accepting the request. All with me, friends, come on, all with me. This is the crux of the matter. And you can see the headers of the request. You can see that it is get. If the method was equal to post, if I had given over here something like post, then in that case the same data will go in the body of the request. I repeat, the same data will go in the body of the request, and I would get that data somewhere over here in the body of the request. All right, if you want I can show that as well to you, and then I say Shakir, and then again I say submit, and then when I do that, you see I get the data. You see now this time, okay, again it's get. Why? Because I didn't take the latest version of, I made changes, but I did not. Okay. I will run the server, started the server, and then I go back here and I say Shakir this time. And when I say submit, you see the data is not there in the parameter. Instead, the data is there in the body of the request. Can you see the name is equal to Shakir? So see here, what is the request now? This time, what is the request? What time? This time, what is the request? The request is post. And where is the data? The data is here. You see this? The data is here. So what am I supposed to do next? Maybe, I mean, this is a simple form. Yes, in the body of the request. So maybe I have a requirement that I have a full-fledged form. I take the first name, I take the last name, I take the address. The user clicks on submit and I save it to the database. So now what am I supposed to continue with? I'm supposed to continue with writing some code which will send the data to the database. Well, I do that. But then this blessed server of mine, right? If we were all in the college, I would have used a different term, right? This blessed server of mine is, I mean, it just simply stops after taking one request. You see this server of mine, right? Just stops. एक request लेगा बंद हो जाएगा. Okay, is this what you want? No, no, this is not what you expect, isn't it? As I continue, and again I get the request here, you see, and then my server is off. So what? I keep on, I set and for those thousands of concurrent users who will be using my web application, what I need to restart my, I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? My server must keep running. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this in a while loop. So one request it accepts and then again goes back and ready for another request to be accepted. Not my words. I will put this in a while loop. Whatever I have highlighted, all that I have highlighted, I will put it into a while true loop. It will be a never ending loop. Then I will keep on accepting requests. But then, आप लोग सब मेरे साथ है ना? No one will teach you J2E the way I am teaching you. All praises be to God the Almighty. You're with me? You're with me. Okay, good. So I'm going to put this into a while loop. But then what will happen when I put this in the while loop? Each and every request will be executed, and once the request is executed, so suppose, let me do that. Let me do that for you. I'll say while true. I do this while true. You see this? Okay, I do this. Now the next request. So maybe there are hundreds of concurrent requests landing on my server, but each one of those requests is executing in which thread? बताओ मुझे. If there are 100 concurrent requests landing on my server, in which thread is my server? I mean, in which thread all of those requests will be executed? Superb, Sabash. You guys are brilliant. Very nice. I'm enjoying doing the training for you all. I'm enjoying. Fantastic. It's main thread. What does that mean? If a particular request, so I need to fire, maybe after getting the data, after I've got the data, I will start processing the request. I will start processing the request. I will send request, I will connect with the database, store the data in the database, and maybe that takes 500 milliseconds. Suppose, a particular request that lands, it takes 500 milliseconds. What does this mean? The other concurrent request will have to wait till the time this request is not processed so that it can go back in the loop and it can start accepting the other request. That means concurrency nahi hai. Hello, concurrency nahi hai. There is no concurrency over here. Each request will get executed in the same main thread, one after the other, one after the other. Just imagine the kind of user experience my end users are going to have. Experience, right? Just imagine the experience that they are going to encounter, isn't it? Good or bad? Good or bad? Yeah, good? You're saying Kaushal, you're good? I mean, you're saying this is good? It's not good. This is bad, very bad. Because one after the other, do you have to, if suppose there are 10,000 people at this point in time, just imagine if there are 10,000 people at this point in time, 10,000 people who are trying to apply and create an account all over the globe on PwC, each one of them will get their request processed after the other. That means just imagine when the 10,000th person will get the time, will get his chance, right? So this is bad. So what do you think we should be doing? What do you think we should be doing? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. In parallel. That means I will have to have what? Come on, jaldi bolo. In parallel, तो क्या बनाना पड़ेगा इधर? What do you think? I will have to work with what? Threads. Hey, come on, where is atomic variable Aniket? किधर जा रहे हो? Thread pool, yes, Devdeep, we will have to work with threads. And you're very right, thread pool. I don't want to. So I can keep on creating new threads and give the task to be executed in that thread. I repeat, I can create each point of time a new thread and give a task to give this task to be executed in that thread. See, so I'll say new thread, and then I say the run method, and see, see the way I'm writing my code. I'll say dot start, right? Dot start, and then you see I just copy and paste this entire thing over here, over here. Okay, correct, over here. You see this? I will have to surround this entire thing also in a let me put this entire thing in a try catch block. Okay, works. But each time a new thread will be created, good or bad, I have discussed all of these things with you. Each time a new thread is created, it is a compute intensive job. So what is the solution? Should I be creating new threads always, or should I be creating come on, 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 executor service, service is equal to executors dot, I will say new fixed thread pool, maybe 100. I create 100 threads. And instead of each point on time saying new thread like this, I will say new runnable over here, and I will pass this as a parameter to service dot execute. See this, my dear friend, service dot execute, and I close it over, I close it out here. See this, everything compiled successfully. Now each and every request that lands will be processed in a different thread. But which thread? In one of the threads from the thread pool. So it will not recreate the thread every now and then. Plain core Java in front of you, my dear friends. All with me or not? Come on, come on. You're getting whatever I am writing here. Conceptually, you're understanding what I'm doing, isn't it? It's okay if programmatically, if I ask you to replicate this code and if you are unable to do it immediately, it's fine. Fantastic, no problem. If you have understood the concept that I'm trying to explain to you, crystal. ठीक है ना? So far so good. But then still, अभी एक काम तो मेरा ये तो बहुत अच्छा हो गया. I mean, this is something really great now. But then you know what? I need to differentiate between parameters. I will have to always now, whenever the parameter comes, how will I, there must be a mechanism for me. See, whenever the data comes here, friends, please check. Whenever the data comes here in this format, right? Why? Because it follows a protocol to send the data. The browser follows a particular protocol to send the data. What is that protocol? What is that protocol? HTTP. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Hypertext means you can hyperlink. You can hyperlink. You can click on a link and you can go to another page. From there you get to another. You can link pages. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This is the text transfer protocol. HTTPS जाने दो. S is secure socket layer. S छोड़ दो अभी. But HTTP fundamentally you are sending the data. The browser sends the data over HTTP. I repeat, the browser sends the data over HTTP. One more time. Browser sends the data over HTTP. Take a look. Now I have a question to you all. Is browser concerned with or even know about the server side technology, whether Shakir has written that code in Java or .NET or PHP or whatever? Browser को समझता है क्या? Browser understands? It does not. It just simply sends the data over HTTP. It says, okay, sorry, instead of saying data, well, not wrong, but then still the best term is request. It sends the request, browser sends the request over HTTP. The other way around. Do you think the server program knows anything about the browser that, well, in the header, you do get what the browser is? User agent, where is the user? Here, you do get, right? But then otherwise, do you think your server is dependent as such, whether the request has come from Chrome or Safari or Firefox or Opera? Absolutely not. It's least concerned. Though it gets that information in the header, I repeat, it gets that information in the header. But otherwise, server is least concerned. It's a hypertext transfer protocol. It's an HTTP protocol. And this HTTP protocol ensures that the client is agnostic of the server and server is agnostic of the client. Client is not dependent what the server is written in, and server is not concerned with what the client is written in. Hence, this is a fantastic protocol. Ubiquitous. It is everywhere. HTTP protocol. And what are the three things you tell me that you get in the HTTP request? Come on, three things. We have already talked about it. Jaldi bolo. मुझे यहाँ लिखना है वो. I need to write that over here. Tell me what are the three things that you get in the request? Jaldi bolo. Hey, Anindya, what are the three things that is sent in the request? Sent in the request. कहाँ जा रहे हैं आप लोग? What are the three things that are sent in the request? Yes. Parameters, body of the request, and the headers. Come on, yes or no? Superb, superb. See, I'm getting super excited. Now, why I'm getting excited is that something that I was otherwise someone else would have actually started with. Did not start with that at all up till now. I'm explaining something to you in such a way. I'm showing you bare metal, bare bones. I'm showing you bare bones, skeleton, entire bare bones, and then it will be cakewalk for you to understand the complete structure. Cakewalk. So far so good. What request sends? Parameters. It sends the body of the request, the data in the body of the request, and it sends the headers. Now here, don't you think I will have to write some code to segregate the three in such a way that I identify nicely, perfectly, whatever you may call it. I don't know what would be the right English, but then I hope you're getting it. I need to identify nicely what are the parameters, isn't it? What are the parameters that are sent? Then B, I need to identify nicely or rather I would say I need to segregate and I need to parse and I need to parse. I need to parse and I need to identify what is the data in the body of the request. Data in the body of the request. See this, huh? Body of the request. Okay. And even before, okay, dude, okay. My mouse jumps to this bloody WebEx while I'm typing. So, abhi ruk jao. Okay. Okay. Identify what is the data in the body of the request. And even before this, my dear friend, the zeroth thing that I need to do is the very first thing that I need to do is that identify whether the request is, come on, is what? Get or a post. It can be something else as well. We will discuss that later. It can be get or a post. And then see, I also need to find the identify the headers. Correct the headers in the request that I have received in the request. Come on, yes or no? Yes, correct. You're right. Correct. You're right. All of these things I need to do. तो इसके लिए मुझे कोड लिखना पड़ेगा कि नहीं? Come on, I will have to write this code. Come on. Yes. Okay, then is that all? Because I will do that processing only after this now. So I will move this comment line from here. Friends, I'm going to comment. The first thing I'm going to do is this. First of all, understand that whether the request is get or a post, then get the parameters, get the, because ये तो पूरा text है ना यार. Come on, this is hypertext transfer protocol. यार, what am I going to get here? I'm going to get text यार. Come on, my friends. It's a no-brainer. Text protocol है ये. Text आ रहा है मुझे इधर. मैंने आपको display किया है. What did I print over here? Is it some kind of any other object, some magical object, or it's just a string? What comes to the server is a string. Right here in front of you, what browser sends is a string. It's a text protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. It's a string, yes. So I have a string and I have to parse that string. I need to parse that string. I repeat once again, I need to parse the string so that I understand whether it is a get or a post. तो मुझे ये portion निकालना पड़ेगा. I will have to get this portion of my string, whether it is a post or a get. Then I will have to parse this. If it is a post, I will have to go down and get the value of the data. I mean, I will have to get all the data in the body of the request. Then if it is, and then whatever, get or a post, then if I want the list of headers, then I will have to, parse all of this data. I will have to parse the header and then the value. 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 ये सब करना, ये सब कोड लिखना पड़ेगा ना मुझे? Yes or no? I will have to write all of that code. I have to parse the string. It's a text protocol. And then when I get all the data, when I have understood, okay, this is what, then I start processing the data. Then I start processing the parameters. Then I start talking to the database. Then I get the data. Whatever time it takes, it takes. And then finally, what is it that I need to do? Data ho gaya, request aa gaya. I parsed the string. I got the parameters. I got the body of the request. I got the headers. And then based on the value of the parameters and the body of the request and the headers or whatever, blah blah blah, I perform all the logic and I send my, I invoke a database and I perform database operations and I perform security related operations, this, that. And then finally, I need to send something back. Super, Pooja. Very nice, Monisha. Very nice, Bharati. I'm so happy. All my circus and theatrics is really working, right? Very good. So I need to send back what? Response. How did I read the data when the request came in? Using what? Input stream. How will I write back the response? Using, come on, using, I read the data using input stream. I will be able to write the data using, what is the output, output stream, correct? So I'll say output stream. Now this output stream is what I create. I say out is equal to the same socket object, the same socket object. You don't leave the meetings there. Why do you leave the meetings and go? I don't know. Okay, so s dot get output stream, and then I say out dot write. You can see this. I can write a byte array. I'll say, HTML slash body like this, and then I'll close the body tag. I will close the HTML tag. Okay, and then you're in the HTML tag itself, within HTML body, and then here I'll write h1. I'll say welcome to JEE training. Okay, and then slash H1. Okay, so all of this is what I have here. Okay, H1. And then I need to convert it to bytes because the write function takes a byte. So I'll say byte add. I convert it to bytes and I have written that. Okay, now I'm going to run my program again. Now I'm going to go back to my Chrome again. And you see I have that. Okay, now see this. I'm just refreshing the page. And when I refresh the page, okay, I did not write the response properly. I think we must close this out.close as well. Let me check now. Okay, I got the data. And then, oh, maybe there is, I am missing something out here wherein I need to, close the response properly. But then otherwise, anyways. So see, I have an issue over here because out dot. अरे बस अरे oh okay okay I have a loop right. I have a loop and then I have a loop and then within that I've got a thread pool stuff and all. Cool, all the good, all the more better that I am getting these issues. All the more better. I'm happy that I need to still do something. My program is not perfect. My program is dirty. I am unable to send the response back. Then sending the response back, you see this HTML, the way I'm building the HTML over here, clumsy way of building the HTML here. In short, I would wrap this up in what? I need to generate the response here. You getting it? I need to generate the response. Got that, friends? I need to generate the response. And in that response, I need to generate HTML. And perhaps I have written some code in actual.html file. I need to pick it up and then send it across, generate HTML. So much of work to do. Correct. So what is my server supposed to do all in all? If I categorize it into, three parts. One is on my server, my program is supposed to get all the content of the request, the parameters, the body of the request, and the header. And then I need to process the request. And then third, I need to generate the response. Cool. Come on, yes or no? I need to generate the response, isn't it? You'll all agree? Right? And that too, it must work with the thread pool. And then there are all, these are the few features that I've talked about my program. I need several other features that I need. So now you tell me, should I be writing such a program myself? Or should I be hunting for something that is already written? Oh, the voice is getting low in between. No, is it? Was it only for me or for everybody? My voice getting low for only me or for everybody? No. Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Right. So, yeah, perhaps I'm. So please understand this point. Please understand. Should I be writing my program? Should I be using my blessed program? This program that I have written is toilet paper. No one will use this program as a web server. Will anyone use this program as my web server? At my web server. Will anyone would like to use it? No, because there are so many things that are expected out of a web server. There are so many things that is expected out of an HTTP server, which I am not capable of writing, and I will not reinvent the wheel. Why would I reinvent the wheel when there are state of the art servers available out there in the market? One of them is and free open source in Java world, Tomcat. Tomcat is the server, which is an HTTP server for Java. For Java, and I'm a Java guy, so I won't hunt for a PHP server. I won't hunt for a .NET server. I won't hunt for a Node.js based Express server. I am interested in what Tomcat server or any server like Tomcat server, which is Java based. which is Java based. If I use this server, do you think I will be using my HTTP server? No, I will not be using my HTTP server. I will not be, of course, I mean, it makes no sense. See the amount of code that I will have to write for this in order to parse the string and get the parameters body and header. Hell lot of a job to do. And then I will process that. Is my own business logic, that is fine. But then again, generating a response back, hell lot of a job to do. I don't want to do this. I want to use something that is already there in the market, and that is what? Tomcat server. So, what is it that I'm expecting out of my Tomcat server? Please, what is it that I'm expecting? So, here instead of saying server, I'll say Tomcat server. It can be Glassfish server, it can be Tomcat server, it can be JBoss server, it can be WebLogic server, it can be IBM WebSphere server. There are many Java servers available out there in the market. I'm going to use Tomcat in this training. What is it that you are expecting? Three major things that you are expecting from the Tomcat server. Tell me. Come on. Tell me, what are the three major things that you are expecting out of Tomcat server? Batao. What are the three major things? Request, request object, right? It must give you a not respect, request object with what? Come on, parameters, body of the request, and what else? And what else? Come on, headers. It must also tell you whether the request is a GET request or a POST request. Come on. Make sense? Yes. It must give you all of these features, right? Isn't it? Let me make this 12. So it must give me all of these features. This is what I expect, right? I need all of these features here. Also, at the same point of time, it must help me to generate a response, right? So response generation. Okay, it must help me to also generate the response. So these are the two major things that I'm expecting out of my Tomcat server. These are the fundamental things that it must provide. So far, so good. Any questions? But I hope now you are crystal clear on the fact that your Tomcat is going to do no magic. It's going to do no magic other than what? Implementing the same thing that I implemented, but of course, very elegantly. As I said, this is no one is going to use it. You're going to throw this away. There are hundreds of features, and all of those features must be beautifully implemented, elegantly designed, and it must be state of the art. What I have developed is just for the sake of explaining to you that internally Tomcat ends up doing the same thing. But of course, when I say same thing, I mean conceptually the same thing, of course, thousand, a million times more elegantly. What I have done is just simply throw everything. बात समझ में आ रही है? So what is Tomcat? Is Tomcat written in C? Is my server written in C? Is Tomcat written in C, C++? What is Tomcat written in? What is Tomcat written in? One word, Java. Tomcat is written in Java. Okay, what else I'm expecting out of it? I'm also expecting that Tomcat must provide me with the concept of thread pool. That means I must not worry. I must not worry. It must automatically provide the concept of thread pool. That means Tomcat must internally have thread pool. Internally, Tomcat must have thread pool so that each and every request that lands on the server is executed in a different thread. I want each one of you all to please write this. I'm repeating once again, and you're going to write it verbatim. You're going to write it verbatim. I'm repeating each and every request that lands on the server. Tomcat will execute that request. Rather, let me say web server. Any server, whether it is Tomcat or Glassfish or Sun1 application server or WebLogic or WebSphere or whatever, or JBoss server, each and every request that lands on the server is executed in a different thread, right? Each and every request that lands on the server executes in its own thread. Come on, write this. Each and every request that lands on the server executes in one of the threads from the thread pool. ये लिखना है आपको. When the request lands on the server, each and every request that lands on the server is processed in one of the threads of the thread pool. No, I'm not proceeding further till the time I see you all of you writing this for me over here in the chat window. Each and every request that lands on the server is executed by one of the threads from the thread pool. Okay, so Anindya says each and every request that lands on the server is processed in one of the threads of the Red Bull. Brilliant. Super. I will aram say wait for the others also. Each and every request that lands on the server is. Yeah, I hope you guys are not copying and pasting. Huh? Don't copy paste. You can, right? Ah, yeah, you can copy and paste it. Very good. Each and every request that lands on the server is processed in one of the threads in the thread pool. Superb. Each and every request that lands on the server is executed by one of the threads in the thread pool. Yes. Very good. Each and every request lands on the server is processed in one of the threads of the thread pool. Yes. Each and every request that lands on the server. Brilliant. Yeah. Superb. You guys are really participating. Excellent. 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 Beyond expectations. Brilliant. So you see this here, you have a thread pool. You do have a thread pool. Thanks, friends. I got it. So you have a thread pool here, friends. You see, the thread pool is there in every server that you work on. The thread pool is there. Now another $1 million point. What is the worth of another point that I'm going to make? At least three of y'all. What is the worth of another important point that I'm going to make? What is the worth? $1 million. At least three of y'all tell me. Yes, $1 million. $1 million. Oh my God, Kaushal, you are superb. Yeah. You will, you know what, guys? Kaushal will become a manager. Huh? Yeah, you take it from me. Few years down the line, you will find Kaushal running businesses and running business shows. You know, he's not going to be one of us like programmers, right? Okay, okay, cool. Thanks. Now see this. I said there are many servers out there in the market. JBoss. Okay, to start with Tomcat, JBoss, Glassfish, WebSphere, WebLogic. You will be happy to know there is an application server called Pramati and very extensively used in Indian market, especially by banks. And it is developed by people are Indians. All the other servers are developed by foreign guys. But Pramati application server, this is developed by Indians full on, and this is a Hyderabad-based company, and I am, I had worked some 15 years back. I had worked on this Pramati application server for a couple of my clients, and they've given a tough fight to some big names in the industry like WebSphere and WebLogic. WebSphere comes from IBM, WebLogic comes from Oracle, right? So Pramati application server, we must be proud of them, Indian guys who have built this entire thing. Okay, so how many servers did I name? I talked about what? Tomcat, JBoss, WebSphere, WebLogic, Pramati, right? Glassfish. There are so many application servers. Now, point here is this. $1 million point is this. Do you think each one of these servers must provide the implementation of these features? Request processing, getting the parameters of the request, getting the body of the request, getting the headers of the request, and then generating the response. Working with the thread pool and stuff and all. Especially this request processing and response. Don't worry about the thread pool part. But these two things. And then along with this, there are many, many other features also that you need. We will talk about those features. I'm talking about the most fundamental feature of request processing and generating the response and sending it back to the client. This fundamental thing, and I repeat, there are many other things over and above these fundamental things, which we will discuss later. But all of these features put together, do you think all of these servers must provide the implementation based on their whims and fancies, or they must follow some standards? They must follow some standards, or they must all provide the implementation. They know what I'm saying. Implementation based on their whims and fancies. They must follow some standards. Yes, they must follow some standards, right? They must follow some standards so that, and it is because of these standards that this has become such a big hit. I can write my application. I must be able to write my application, which today I am running on Tomcat. Tomorrow, if I want, I must be able to ship it on WebSphere. If tomorrow I want, I must be able to ship it on WebLogic from Oracle. If tomorrow I want, I must be able to ship that application and run that application on top of JBoss application server. And this will be possible only and only if all of these guys they follow the standards. So in plain English term, I will call them as standards. But technically speaking, in software world, it's known as the interface, programming interface, which these implementations will conform to. This is that $1 million point. A programming interface that all of these implementations must conform to plain simple English and dot perfect statement. Some programming interface that all of these implementations must conform to, whether it is Tomcat or JBoss or WebSphere or WebLogic or Pramati or Glassfish, all of these must conform to CONFORM, not CONFIRM. Conform to, conform to this programming interface. So my applications will be programmed to interfaces, not to the implementations. I don't care whether it is Tomcat or JBoss or WebLogic or WebSphere or Pramati. I don't care about the implementation. My application will sit on top of these servers, run will be running on these servers, but my application will be programmed to interfaces, not to the implementation. These implementations conform to the interfaces. My application will be programmed to interfaces. My application will use the references of type interfaces. Interfaces are abstractions. Here are the implementations. I repeat, here is an abstraction layer. My application that I will be writing, my web application that I will be writing is dependent on this abstraction, is dependent on these interfaces. Now you know very well what is an interface and what's an abstract class. This is an interface, the set of interfaces. I repeat, not one interface, not two interfaces, not three or four, some set of interfaces that lays down the standard, that sets up the standard. My application that I write will be dependent on these interfaces, and these implementations, JBoss and Tomcat and WebSphere and WebLogic, they conform to these interfaces. What does this mean? When I program my application to these interfaces, I'm for sure that any implementation which conforms to this interface will do the same job, will do exactly the same job that I'm expecting, it to do. Whether I use Tomcat, it will do the same job of request processing. The way the request processing happens, the implementation may differ. I'll give you an example. You remember list as an interface, but linked list and array list as two different implementations. You remember that? You remember? Right? You remember that? List is an interface, but two different implementations. The internal implementation is different, but the service is the same. I can add to the linked list. I can add to the array list. I can read from a linked list. I can get from a linked list. I can get from an array list. So the services are the same, but the implementation is different. So maybe one implementation is more advanced as compared to the other implementation, but they all conform to the same standards. They all conform to the same programming interface. They all provide the same set of services. And I don't care what implementation they are using. I care about programming to the interfaces. These set of interfaces are known as APIs. This is the $1 million point. What is this set of interfaces known as? APIs. So servers, all the implementations, all the, I would say, Java server implementations, to be very specific. I'm not talking about .NET and PHP and stuff, .NET and PHP and stuff. I'm talking about all the Java. No, no, that's not really that bad. So all the Java server implementations, they conform to API. What API? JEE APIs. Okay, and to be very specific here from web, when I say JEE APIs, there are many APIs. Let me be very specific here. Servlet API. Come on, which API? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Which API? All of these will confirms. They all confirm to what? Which API? Come on, y'all type it out, friends. Which API? Servlet API. So when you say servlet is what? It's an API. Tomcat provides the implementation of Servlet API. WebSphere provides the implementation of Servlet API. Your JBoss provides the implementation of Servlet API. Pramati application server provides the implementation of Servlet API. Perfect. Servlet API. And when they provide the implementation of Servlet API, runtime, they provide all the features. that are expected that are rather listed on Servlet API. They provide the implementation of each and every feature, each and every service that is declared in the Servlet API. And this Servlet API, when I say Servlet API, is it one API? This Servlet API, so to say, I'll say Servlet API, right? I'll just simply say Servlet API, correct? Let me put this in two lines, all right? And I'll do this. So, is it one single API, one single interface? No, there are several interfaces. I repeat, there are several interfaces. Okay, that's not one interface. The API will not contain just one interface. It contains many interfaces. For example, don't you think, you remember we did talk about it, right? Today in the morning itself, we did talk about it. What is design? Identifying the right classes, identifying the right abstractions, identifying the right interfaces, deciding this function goes in that interface, this so and so interface, this function goes in so and so interface. So don't you think these guys who are super experts, they are PhD guys, they are master guys, they are PhD guys, they are, their level of expertise and their class is different here. Their class is different. Their class is really different, you know. So so they are a different breed altogether. They think in a different direction altogether. So they build frameworks. We build business applications using their frameworks, but they build frameworks, right? They build APIs and implementations of API. So these guys, those who design these APIs, don't you think they are expert designers? And don't you think they would have identified n number of interfaces and said that, okay, these functions will be in this interface, these functions will be this interface, this function will be in this interface, and then the implementation providers. Tomcat is an implementation provider of Servlet API. JBoss is the implementation provider of Servlet API. All of this will provide the implementation of those interfaces. You all know, my dear friends, what is an interface. You know what is a class implementing an interface. So they have defined in Servlet API the set of interfaces, the set of interfaces. I repeat, the set of interfaces, and these implementation servers, Tomcat, and everything else, they provide the implementation of these interfaces. So one interface or many interfaces? What do you think? They might have just dumped everything in one interface. Make sense? Or several interfaces? Set of interfaces. Yes. When I said, say, yeah, many interfaces. When I say set of interfaces, many interfaces. So there is the most fundamental interface that you must be aware of is HTTP servlet request. Okay. Or rather, let me start with HTTP servlet itself. HTTP servlet. So there is an interface. Okay, there is actually a class called HTTP servlet. No, so servlet is an interface. Generic HTTP servlet is a class that implements that interface. Okay, so servlet is an interface. Then you will find another interface called HTTP servlet request. Now you can understand very well what it really means by HTTP servlet request. What do you think? What kind of functions do you think you will have in on HTTP servlet request? Request, HTTP servlet request. फिर एक और है, right? As you can assume and you can realize, HTTP servlet what? Response. Okay. See, correct. I'll say take tip top and then I'll make it italic. Okay, these are the interfaces, my dear friends. What do you think? What kind of services do you think will be there on HTTP servlet request? Request. Are superb, Rakesh. Very good. It will have the methods for you to get the parameters. It will have methods for you to get the headers. Come on, yes or no? It will have methods for you. It will have methods which will help you to get what was the HTTP method, whether it was a get or a post. You remember get post, get post, get post, get post, isn't it? And then response. What do you think the response would do? It will write the response back to the client. On that socket connection, it is supposed to write the response back. I repeat, on the socket connection, it is supposed to write the response back, isn't it? And then this entire application that you have developed using servlet HTTP request, servlet request, HTTP servlet response, that entire application that you have got, you need, yeah, correct. In order to write stuff and all, you need to hold on to some values which are at the application level. You need an object that represents the application that you have developed. So you have something called, okay, you have something called servlet context object. Repeat, what object? Servlet context object. There is an object called servlet context, isn't it? I hope you are getting the point. I'll take a pause here. What's the time? It's 11:41. We have enough time. Do you all want a break of 5 minutes or so? 10 minutes का break चाहिए आप लोगों को? ठीक है, एक break लेते हैं अभी आप लोग. Come on, we'll take a break. Okay. So one important point that you must and must all of you all know. Again, this is the really $1,000,000 point. Trust me, this is again a $1,000,000 point. This request response model is stateless. I repeat, this request response model is stateless. It's a stateless protocol. I repeat, HTTP protocol is stateless protocol. Okay. Many people towards the start of their career and even while writing code, many a times they don't understand this point and they make mistakes and then they are unable to understand the point. Okay. So please understand this point. It's a stateless protocol, right? What do you mean by stateless protocol now? What exactly you mean by what do you really mean by stateless protocol? Stateless protocol means when the request goes from the browser to the server and the request gets processed on the server and the moment the response comes back to the browser, khalas, gone. There is no relationship between the client and the client, yes, which happens to be the browser. It can be any client as such, and the server. No relationship. You may even remove the wires, from your network wires. You may disconnect from network, do anything, and then on the page again, and then again you connect back. You connect the network and everything back, it comes back, and then you click on submit, it will continue from there onwards. So there is no connection anyways. Each and every request is a new request. And the life of the request over here is limited till the time the response is committed back to the client. एक एक पॉइंट मैं बता रहा हूँ ना, $1,000,000 का पॉइंट है फ्रेंड्स. दिस इज द बिल्डिंग ब्लॉक. These are the building blocks. These are not the things that you can afford to miss. As you might have seen in all my explanation, I focus on the architecture. I focus on how things work under the hood. Yes, sure, Anikan, I will repeat that. I am I am not so very concerned about the functions and the classes and stuff that you will anyways get it. But try and understand this. The point that I'm trying to make that I'm making is this. It is a stateless protocol. The request goes to the server. The request is getting processed on the server. That request object that is created. So there is a request object that is created, which is represented by this interface servlet, HTTP servlet request. So the request object that gets created, you don't have to create it. It is automatically created by the implementation that you are using. Tomcat. So Tomcat is the implementation. Tomcat will create that object for you, but that object will certainly conform to which interface? HTTP servlet request interface. So that object, the life of that object is limited to the time the response is committed back. The moment response goes back to your browser, that object is destroyed on the server. So each and every request is a new request. So the data that you sent in the previous request, and okay, let me put it like this: the request that you send, the request A that you send, and the request B that you send, they are not related. It's stateless. What do you mean by stateless? What do you mean by stateless? Okay, tell me something. I'm using draw.io. Is it stateless or stateful? I'm using my mail application. I am using my mail application. This is stateful or stateless application? Stateful. Stateful. The state is maintained in the application. Yes, it is stateful. Very good, very good, very good. But this protocol is stateless. What does this mean? When the request is sent and when the data is sent in that request on the server, the data, the parameters and the body of the request and the header is there on the server in the form of HTTP servlet request object. When the request goes to the server, the data, the parameters, the body of the request, and the headers are there in the request object, HTTP servlet request object. And that the data, the life of that data is limited to that request till the time the response goes back. The moment response goes back, the request object is lost. So when again a new request comes in, it's a new request. That means between the two requests, there is no relationship. So if you had sent the data in one request, you will not be able to get that same data in another request on the server. So far, so good. Don't worry, I'll still further continue. Okay, I'll still further continue. So it's a stateless model. It's a stateless model. But don't you think it happens that you go to Amazon.in and you start buying products? You buy product A, you buy product B, you buy some apparels, you buy some computer peripherals, you buy some books, and you keep on putting it in the cart. So when you click on a particular product to add to the cart, it goes into the cart. You then go to another page, it's a different request. You select another product and you click on I want to buy this product. That also goes into the cart. That is yet another request. So you are selecting 5 different products from 5 different pages. Are those 5 different selections and sending those requests to the server are 5 different requests or not? Come on, they are all 5 different requests or not? Yes, you all agree? There are 5 different requests. But then all of a sudden, when you go to your account and say show my cart, when you go to the cart, it shows all the 5 items that you have purchased so that you can check out in one shot. You can click on checkout and you can pay the amount, pay your credit card, provide your credit card details and you can check out all the items in one shot. So you go to yet another page after sending 5 different requests. You want to buy an apparel, you want to buy some computer books, you buy blah blah blah, and then it's all like getting accumulated. And tell me one thing, while you are doing the purchase, and when you click on your cart, show my items in my cart or show my cart, it will give you exactly the list of items that you have purchased. While you were doing this, even I may be purchasing something on Amazon. So my cart will show my items, your cart will show your items. Make sense? Or will I get in my cart your items? Why will I pay for your appearance? Correct. And why will you pay for mine? It will all be a mess. It will not be possible. I mean, e-commerce wouldn't have become a reality. Clear? So how come? So how come? How come the server is able to keep track of all the data that is sent in different requests from that particular user on the server side. Note my words. I'm saying how come, how on earth this server can maintain all the data that has come from a particular user in different requests. How does it maintain? It maintains in an object called HTTP session object. Repeat, which object? HTTP session. Please repeat. You're going to write this down in the chat window. What object? Come on, friends. In HTTP session object. Yes, in HTTP session object. So see, I'm going to list down all of these over here like this, you know. So I put it over here. HTTP servlet request I bring here and servlet object I bring here. Okay. If you are not aware of these objects, just forget about writing code in Java. Just forget about writing code in Java for web. Okay, but I'm sure you'll all understand this. Okay, so we talked about the servlet object that represents the object which will help me in request processing. Within the servlet object, there are ways to catch hold of HTTP servlet object that will contain the data that we have received in the request. And HTTP servlet response is the object that would handle rendering the response back to the client. Servlet context represents the object, which is one single object per application. HTTP session is the object in which you can maintain the data across multiple requests for a particular user. Okay, so servlet represents the entire communication, right, between the client and the server. HTTP request represents the request object so that you can get the data. Okay, the request. Okay, the request object. Okay, all the data that has come in the request object represents the rendering of data to client. You may call it HTML, you may call it just generally data, whatever. Servlet context. What does this represent? This represents the context or one single object for that application. I'm going to ask you questions now, and you must be able to answer my questions. HTTP session represents one object per user. I'm in order to make things easier for you, I'm saying per user. In fact I must say per session only. Actually, it's a session, the user session that has started. It represents that. Please try and understand this. Okay, it's absolutely simple. It's absolutely simple. This is what we have. This is exactly what we have, right, friends? So these are the different types of objects that we have here. We have got a servlet object. We have got HTTP servlet object. We have got HTTP servlet response. Okay, HTTP servlet, and then you've got servlet context, and then you've got HTTP session object. Now I have a question to you all. HTTP session object. I'm asking questions to you now. Okay, what if you want to maintain the data of the client, a particular user? What if you want to maintain the data of a particular user across multiple requests? You want to accumulate that data across multiple requests and store it somewhere for that user, for another user, another object specific to that user, and another for another user, another object in which you will be maintaining the state of the client, state of the client, state of the client. State of the client means all the things that he is selecting on the browser, all the data that he is sending in the request. You want to store it somewhere safe for that particular user, another object for that particular user, another object but across multiple requests for that particular user, per user. In which object will you store data? Come on, tell me, in which object out of all of these will you store the data? Tell me. If you want to maintain the state of the client across multiple requests for a user server side, which one of these will you use? Yes, superb. HTTP session. Now I have a question based on, see the definitions that I have given over here. See the definitions that I have given here. Okay, see the definitions. See the definitions that I have given here. If I have to store some data which will be common across all the users in that one single application, where will I store that data? Servlet context. Servlet context. All the servlets work in the same servlet context object for that application. Yes, servlet context. No, Kritika, not servlet, it's servlet context. Okay, servlet context. But a good try, very good. Now, what is the life of the HTTP servlet request object? Will one request object still live on my server even after the response is generated? When the response is generated back, still the request object will live or it will die? Very good. No, it will not live, it will die. Correct. Similar is the case with HTTP. Yeah, it will die. Superb. HTTP servlet response also. The response is created and the data is written. Whatever data is there in the response, it is written to the socket connection so that it goes back to the client. Done. After that, the response object is not there. A new request response. A new request response. Got that? And servlet is one single object created of a given servlet. Of a given servlet. I'm saying of a given servlet. There can be several servlets. For a given servlet, there will be one object only in memory. It will be one single object in memory. There are patterns wherein you don't create one single object in memory. You can have multiple objects, so each time the request lands on the server, a new object of that servlet class is created. But that's not the norm, that's not the trend, that's not the way you work. Usually do not. 99.99% cases you will have one object per servlet in memory. You got that? Now, with this, I believe it must be crystal clear to you that these are the objects that you will be playing with. Servlet object. You will create a servlet. Repeat, you will create a servlet. In the servlet, you will have access to HTTP servlet and HTTP servlet response. In the servlet, you will have access to servlet context. In the servlet, you will have access to HTTP session. Any doubts, any questions on this? Any doubts, any questions on this? Oops. Yeah. Any doubts, any questions? And this entire thing is a yeah. Does the servlet object not overlap with the HTTP request and response object? Okay. So this request and response object are made available in the servlet. So when I show you the class and when I show you how do you actually write code in order to use these objects, it will be crystal clear to you. So don't worry about, I understand the way I have explained it to you. Maybe it appears that they are overlapping, but actually no. So servlet is an object of a class. HTTP request and HTTP response are also objects of their respective, whatever the implementation classes. But then these are made available within the servlet. Request will be available within the servlet because you can have two servlets. Each servlet will have its own request. The request object on that servlet will be different. A request object of this servlet will be different. You know, that's how it is, Anakin. Okay, so this is how it is. Let me put this here along with this, arrange, and this should be like this. Title. Okay, request response model is stateless. Perfect. That's how it is. That's how it is. Okay, so now it's time for us to start writing code so that we see things in action, all that we have discussed. Right? All that we have discussed, we can very well see that in action and we can write our own code and see the things, right? See the results. So let's do that, friends. We will again go back to our IDE. I'm going to close this my web server and index.html and stuff, right? Not needed at all. But I will, push this code, my HTTP server, so that if you want to take a look at that, the kind of code that we have, that we wrote, maybe if you want to. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to close this. Now when I close this, I can very well start with a new project. Don't do this along with me. First, let me do this and then I will give you all sufficient time to do the same on your own machines. Okay, please don't do it along with me, because if you do this along with me, there are high chances you may miss on the points. Okay, acha. नहीं तो चलो do it along with me then. In that case, I will go slow. So instead of going fast and showing a tap, 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 I'll go slow. So can you all please reach to this? Close all your projects. You will automatically reach to this. And when I confirm with you all that you have reached to a particular point that I have explained to you, if I get three answers, three people saying yes, reached, I will assume that the entire batch has reached. So have you all reached to this stage? Okay, I have three answers. Now I will say new project. When I say new project, you see, you will get an option. Sorry. When I say new project, you'll get an option called Java Enterprise. I hope you get that option, Java Enterprise. Are you getting that option, Java Enterprise? When you say new, do you get an option called Java Enterprise? I'm sorry, I have Ultimate Edition of IDE, this IntelliJ. It's a paid version. Now we have a choice. Either, either, either we download the Ultimate Edition trial version, or we download free Spring Tool Suite. So let's download Spring Tool Suite, the free version. Okay. Now I will show you how to download that, but first wait. You can go to Google Chrome and then just type in download Spring Tool Suite. It will take you here. Yeah. So see, I am in RPS, right? You see there is an option of this. I will download, okay, on this machine, of course, I will have Windows 64-bit. So here you are. It takes hardly few minutes to download. But when all of you all start together, it may take some 3-4 minutes. Let me know once this is downloaded by every one of you all. Yeah, so since all of you have started now, it is taking a bit of a time, so even my download keeps slow. Then you will install it like this. Just double click on it once it is downloaded. So on my machine, it's almost done. Just 2 seconds, 1 second left. Yes, it's done. So you see this? I have that, I'll keep it. So if it says, do you want to remove or so don't say remove, just keep it. Okay. And you can go to your downloads folder and you will find that in your downloads folder, File Explorer. And then you will find that in downloads, you will find that Spring Tool Suite here. So all of you have downloaded that successfully. Please confirm. No problem. No problem. I will wait.